Welcome, TEI family, to another episode of The Everyday Investor. Today, we have a very special guest. This gentleman has acquired a number of skills throughout the years. He has leveraged those skills into ownership in companies in some of the biggest industries. Let's welcome Myles Baker. What's going on, Myles?
Hey Dave, how you doing, man? Thanks for having me on.
Pretty good, pretty good. Thanks for being on. Definitely look forward to chatting it up with you today, and man, just learning about you and kind of have how you have came to be up until this point. I know we talked a little offline, but the goal of this channel is pretty much to kind of use these different interviews as case studies uh, to talk about how the guests have acquired skills over the years and have leveraged those skills into uh, their investment vehicle, whether it's stocks, whether it's real estate, whether it's businesses, to not only be able to make more money like as of now, but also build up a nest egg in retirement at the retirement age. So I guess with that being said, I always like to start at the beginning. So how did you grow up? Where did you grow up? Was your family middle class, lower class? Did you come from a wealthy family? I know me myself. And I use the term hood rich. We was hood rich. We was in an area that my mom, she gave us all the things that we needed, but we also had some of our wants. But it wasn't until later on in life where I'm like, man, we was doing good for where we were at, but looking back on it, we probably was in a lower class. We weren't going on vacations or things like that. I had to pay for college, so it wasn't like she was paying for college or anything like that. So how did you grow up, and again, where did you grow up?
Okay, so I grew up in Detroit, Rosedale Park specifically. If
Okay.
you're familiar, so I grew up with a working class family, I would say, right? Both my parents worked jobs, pretty hard hours. My dad was a journeyman lineman and been one since like the 70s, 80s.
Wow.
My mom was a flight attendant, so she's worked for Delta before merged with Northwest before it merged with Delta. So she's been a
Gotcha.
flight attendant for almost like 25 years.
Wow.
So I would
Wow.
say I've had two parents that worked hard to put food on the table, but because of that, we were always okay, right? I never felt
Wow.
like we were without, but we
Right.
were definitely a working middle class
For
family
sure.
in the city of Detroit, and my parents always did what they had to do to get it done.
Gotcha.
Until about I was about 8 or 9, my parents split up. My
Okay.
mother remarried and married a man who lived in Novi, right? So he was a
Yeah.
black man entrepreneur, tech
Right.
guy, ownership in businesses, worked the same job for 30 years. And he kind of gave me a totally different perspective on investment, hard work. So it was kind of like I got the 10 years in the city growing up, seeing what it
Right.
really did in the city. And then I got 10 years after moving out to Novi, where I went to Northfield High School and was exposed to a whole different world of opportunity and kind of what that looked like outside of what
Right.
I had already known.
So for people who don't know, who may not be familiar with Detroit, obviously, you hear about Detroit, you hear, whatever you hear about Detroit, good, bad, or indifferent. But would you say Novi was kind of a more upscale neighborhood or city compared to the Detroit area?
Absolutely. So even if you know
Yeah,
Rosedale Park
for
is
sure.
actually a nice area in the
Yeah,
city. It's a good area of Detroit, but moving out to Oakland County and kind of seeing
yeah.
that suburban, or at least what was going down in the suburbs. Yeah, I would say it was different. It was different.
So no, that's interesting. And I guess my next question, and I'm interested in your answer to this question in terms of, did your parents or your stepdad or whoever kind of talk to you about money growing up? Because I guess up until this point, it seems like it could be a rich dad, poor dad. Obviously, not saying that your real dad was poor, but I'm pretty sure you're familiar with the Robert Kiyosaki Rich Dad Poor Dad, which that was like one of the first books I read early on, and
Read that
kind of
too.
really
Yeah.
talked about his real dad was just a hard worker, blue collar worker, and his rich dad was somebody who kind of played the investment game, played the just whatever the money making game, so to speak. So was that type of scenario where you learned a lot as far as investing and things like that from your stepdad, or did your real dad or or stepdad talk to you about money, or did your mom talk to you about money, or did anyone talk to you about money? Because for me, it was like a growing up in Muskegon, Michigan, which is the west side of the state of Michigan. Again, we knew we needed money to stay where we stayed at, and for food and to pay bills and things like that. But it was almost like a taboo subject where, my mom, she didn't talk about investing and things like that, and she just didn't know any better. So it was no fault for her, but family and friends and man, no, wasn't nobody was talking to me about investing your money and how you can grow your money. So how was that conversation with you and your family growing up?
Yeah, so for me, it almost came way like similar to what you said, but both my dad and stepdad were both good with money and always have been.
Okay, okay,
My dad, in a way that he spoke to me about money, was do what you can do in your life to set yourself up to have your own, because then you can truly do whatever you want, right?
right,
So that's me being 10 years old. Man, I wish I could XYZ.
right,
My
right,
dad said, all right, well, do what you need to do to get your own and you can do whatever you want, right? So it was always he put that in my mind as a what maybe he didn't know, like a motivation for me almost my whole life is a if I set myself up to have my own, no one can tell me what to do with it.
right, right,
And it makes me comfortable, right? So like I'm in control of my own life if I do the right things with my money to get to a place where I can, invest freely, buy the things that I want, or
right.
use those tools because I put in the work to kind of guide my own ship.